Hi, in this demo, I'll show a simple example of Delphix API automation using GitHub Action. GitHub Action is a continuous integration and continuous delivery platform that allow you to automate your build, your tests, and deployment pipelines. Using Delphix API means GitHub users can deploy data just like they would deploy their code natively and automatically within GitHub itself. In my demo repo, I have three branches, namely main, refresh, and remove. And in each of these branch, the trigger is simply any successful push into the branch, and this would kick off a bunch of GitHub Action jobs, as you can see here, which are basically Delphix API calls to provision things like virtual DB or virtual file system folders, or create a Delphix self-service template and enable non-DBA user to perform self-service features such as starting and stopping databases, branching, bookmarking, restore to a bookmark, refresh, and many more. In the first branch, the push trigger will automate the provisioning of an MS SQL virtual DB called GHVDB. It will then create a self-service template and a container inside that template, and subsequently it will mark the end of the job by dropping a bookmark called starting version 1.0 onto that container timeline. The second branch, refresh, basically have the same trigger. A successful push into this branch will kick off the automation of refreshing the GHVDB with the latest data from the source, and at the completion of it, it will drop a bookmark called starting version 2.0. The last branch, remove, will basically wipe clean the host to the state before we begin, therefore, freeing up these resources for the next workload. Now, let me walk you through the GitHub Action setup quickly. In each branch, we are in the main branch right now. The workflow YAML is located here. You can see the trigger definition here and the job section here, which involve installing the Delphix API toolkit and finally calling a script. In the case of this main branch, it's the create_env.sh script. Now back to the code tab. Let's take a look at that script. After setting up the Delphix engine access and login, the four API calls are located here. You can see the first one is to provision a VDB via the Delphix engine, via this Delphix engine, and to this dev group from this source, give the VDB a name and provision to which server, the type of VDB, and which instance in the server to provision to. Subsequently, the next API is to create a self-service template and a container inside this template. And lastly, create a bookmark on the container's timeline and call it starting version 1.0. The other two branches have similar setups. In order to execute this demo, I am using this single liner here, which basically consists of four separate parts. The first part here is to create a change in the environment, because if there's no change, commit will fail, and then therefore there'll be no push. So subsequent part of the command will basically do a git add, git commit, and then git push. As it is typical with most GitHub user, I will use my local console to run this demo. So first, let's make sure we are in the right branch. So we're currently in the remove branch, so I will do a git checkout to main. And then we do a quick check again. Yes, now we are on the main branch now. So I will then look for the single liner that I mentioned earlier, and this is the one. So I will execute this now. Now we switch to a GitHub under the Action tab. You see that a new workflow will run. There you go, create dev. And if you look into the details of this workflow, you see that it's just starting. So let's go to our Delphix GUI and then let's filter the virtual DB looking for GH, which as you can see now does not exist. And onto the self-service template, we are also filter for GH. As you can see, again, it does not exist as a template. The Delphix GUI here is shown for demonstration only. In reality, the GitHub user need not at all log into any Delphix GUI in order to execute this automation. You can see here the virtual DB GHVDB is in the process of being provisioned. So from here onwards, certain section I will just fast forward a little bit in order to save time. You can see that the virtual DB GHVDB has been provisioned successfully. And the next step here is the creation of the self-service template. And as you can see, the template has just come up. Now we're waiting for the creation of the container inside the template. And as you can see, the container just came up. And we go straight into the data operation of this container. And you can see that the container is actually still in the process of being created. So the container has been created, and now we are creating the bookmark, which is the final step of the main branch. And there you go, starting version 1.0 bookmark has just been created. The second branch here is refresh, where the automation here is to refresh the GHVDB with the latest from the source data, and then create a bookmark called starting version 2.0. For this demo, I will skip the refresh section and go straight into the remove section. So same thing here, make sure we are in the remove branch. So from main branch, we will need to check out to remove. And then from there, we will execute our single liner for this remove branch. And then we back to the action panel. A new workflow will be created, and there you go. I will speed up this section a little bit. You can see the template will be deleted and the virtual DB has been removed as well. As I mentioned before earlier in this video, we start with a clean slate, build the data environment using Delphix, initiate the self-service functionality within Delphix, and have the environment ready for whatever automatic testing that follows. Some testing may write to the database or change the data in a number of ways, or even destroy the data, such as in a disruptive testing scenario. With Delphix, you can easily rewind or refresh the environment to a clean slate or a good bookmark, and therefore have the ability to continue on with automatic testing. At the end of it, Delphix can also help remove the entire Delphix environment completely from the saved resources. Unlike in the traditional non-Delphix environment, usually a user book their time on a specific resource and they run their test for 2 hours, 3 hours, and the other 21 hours are wasted sitting idle doing nothing. So that's the end of my demo. If you have any question, do email me on the email shown here. Thank you.